Get a U-Haul for Jon Stewart. He's moving to the middle. With Skynet's having bought Paramount CBS and Stephen Colbert being promptly fired from his job, Jon Stewart has seen enough. His Daily Show is now owned by the conservative Ellison family. They're friends with the Orange Man, and Stewart would like to keep his once-a-week giant paycheck gig. But still, why moderate? Didn't Jimmy Kimmel prove you have nothing to lose by going after the Trumpster? Well, turns out we've uncovered something big.
Whose sole purpose is to manipulate things to the benefit of the Bannon Project or the Project 2025. Rogan's not that guy.
Hello, folks, and welcome back. It's a dandy of a day, even though it's a Monday. Are you going back to work yet? Let us know down in the comments and click the like button. We have a video for you. Don't go anywhere. This is the kind of video you need to see all the way through, because boy, oh boy, do we have something. We found something, little buried treasure we've dug up on the internet. First of all, though, we go to Chief Nerd out of X. It says, Jon Stewart wrecks New Yorker editor David Remnick for whining about Joe Rogan. We're going to go to the clip. I want to show you this. This is the proof positive. Now, we covered Jon Stewart yesterday and said, hey, something's happening here. This is even more. We're now in avalanche territory. Jon Stewart has had enough of being on the far fringes of the left. But he welcomed him in Mamdani, right, Pro? What's going on? That may have been his final opportunity to do something like that, because he has scurried as far to the middle as he can, defending Joe Rogan. Here's what he had to say.
John, you've been on Rogan a couple of times?
Yes.
What did you think of that experience, being on Joe Rogan?
I enjoyed being on Rogan. I think he's an interesting interviewer. There are right-wing, weaponized commentators whose sole purpose is to manipulate things to the benefit of the Bannon Project or the Project 2025. Rogan's not that guy.
All right, so there's Jon Stewart defending Joe Rogan, saying, no. Joe Rogan's fine. Joe Rogan's fine. Don't go after him. And Jon Stewart later in the interview will say, I got people that I love who are on the right, and they're multifaceted individuals. Now, you're not supposed to say that, remember? You're not supposed to say that. So why is he saying it? Why did he have Mamdani on and suddenly made a U-turn? What happened? What happened, Jon Stewart? The brave, the bold, the left, and kind of getting old. Well, it might have something to do with things like this. That same guy, David Remnick, is writing this article. Will Paramount cancel Jon Stewart? Again, the New Yorker. It's behind a paywall. We're not going to read it. We're not going to put it out there in the public. We don't do that, folks. We're ethical here, unlike the drive-bys. So we're not going to put the behind the paywall article up there. But David Remnick puts this out along with the interview and says, will Paramount cancel Jon Stewart? Now, isn't that a nice thing of the New Yorker editor to do? To say, hey, John, come on, interview with me, and then I'll debate whether or not your job's over, whether or not you're going to ride off into the sunset. Let's go back just for a minute, a little bit more here, and I'm going to show you a massive operation that is underway to manipulate and move the needle when it comes to late night and confuse the Hollywood elites.
That's not good.
I've interviewed Kissinger. And he was carpet bomb curious.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. It's very easy to castigate those where we're but he had an opinion a few years back that's, corrosive.
But the difference is, when he was carpet bomb curious, you didn't say, oh yeah, that's awesome. And what happens with Rogan sometimes is he'll hear somebody that's on the dangerous end of the spectrum, and he'll just kind of soak it in.
Now, who's on the dangerous end of the spectrum, folks? Remember that Joe Rogan essentially heralded in the era of the new media, right? Now, he could have done it without Elon Musk, but Joe Rogan has hosted Elon Musk. He's hosted J.D. Vance. He's hosted the Orange Man. And Joe Rogan had better ratings on his hosting of the Orange Man and J.D. Vance than the presidential debate on ABC. It was a complete and total change in the landscape of entertainment. Now, Jon Stewart recognizes that. He's watching as he goes into the lion's den. And some of you really, really dislike Jon Stewart. I'm not here to try to dissuade you of that. But Jon Stewart, if nothing else, he's an intelligent guy, and he knows that these people want him out, but he also knows that he has got to move the middle no matter what. And I'll show you why in just a minute. It has to do with the ratings. It has to do with the false lies that are out there about Jimmy Kimmel. If we go to masslive.com, you're going to see some more about Stewart moving in the middle. I want to hammer this point home. I don't want you to leave this video and say, Pro, that's not happening. Jon Stewart is not moving in the middle. These other guys are not moving in the middle. This is a hallucination. You're making things up again, Pro. I don't want you to have to worry about that. I want to absolutely make it crystal clear. Mass Live has this. Published on Halloween, Kamala Harris shocks Jon Stewart with Joe Biden comments. This is by Gustavo Atencio Flores. It says, former Vice President Kamala Harris has defended former President Joe Biden after criticizing him in her new book. Harris appeared on comedian Jon Stewart's podcast, The Weekly Show, with Jon Stewart to discuss her new book, 107 Days in Her Relationship with Biden. Quote, I care about him deeply, and I did not want to pile on with all the criticism that he was facing. She said, I did not fully understand how big of an issue it was for some people for me to distinguish myself from him. I felt that the distinction between he and I was pretty clear. Harris then defended the former president, which shocked Stewart. I believe he was fully competent to serve. He says, do you really? Yeah, I do, she says. He responds and says, that surprises me, actually. She goes on to defend that, but essentially, Stewart kind of mocks her, jabs at her a little bit because he knows what you all saw. And so that means that the prop is over. The propaganda is over at that point, right? What was it they called it? Cheap fakes. No more cheap fakes for Jon Stewart because he's moderating, okay? He's not going to put out the lie anymore, at least not at the moment, because he's been hired by the Ellisons. Skydance purchased CBS Paramount. CBS Paramount owns Comedy Central. Comedy Central runs his show. Paramount sent Colbert packing immediately. He does not want to have the same fate because why? Because Jon Stewart has the same situation as Rachel Maddow. He gets to work one day a week and he gets a massive paycheck. What could be better? You get to A, remain relevant, which is a huge thing for these people. B, you get to build your legacy, which is a huge thing for these people. C, you get a huge paycheck, which is the biggest thing for these people. And D, you don't have to hardly work for it. They love it. It's a true senior discount. Don't discount it. But the left is not happy about moving to the middle. Again, I promised you, you're not coming to this video and walk away and say, oh, Pro, you're buying into it. No, at least as a facade, he's going to the middle. He's moving back in his Bill O'Reilly days. You remember when Jon Stewart and Bill O'Reilly would get together on each other's shows and yuck it up a little bit? I don't know. With a lot of these personalities, who knows what's the real and what's the unreal, right? You don't know who is the real Jon Stewart. Will the real Jon Stewart please stand up? No, he won't. And neither will most of these people because they, for purposes that make a lot of sense, they obscure who they really are. They present a persona on screen, on stage, through the microphone, all of that. But Jon Stewart knows that the public persona has to be moderated to get the next contract, and the contract's coming up. Now, the left isn't happy about that. Splinter says maybe it's time for Jon Stewart to step back. I said that in a funny way. Folks, it's splinter.com. Some of you out there who are just listening to this as a podcast thought, geez, Louise, the master of the Ninja Turtles is turning on Jon Stewart. No, splinter.com. That would be very odd, wouldn't it? Jason Tabras is the author here. Maybe it's time for Jon Stewart to step back. The timing matters. October 31st. When did the New Yorker piece come out, folks? October 31st. You see the coordination happening here? Is it organically orchestrated? Is it synthetically? Is it coincidence? I can't tell you that. But I can tell you, the interview comes out. Will Paramount cancel him comes out. And Splinter, not the rat, well, maybe, is saying on the exact same day, maybe it's time for him to get off the stage. I'm going to scroll to the last paragraph so you can see what it's saying. Because a lot of it, it's a lot, okay? So let's go to the last paragraph. I hate to spoil it. I know you're waiting to read this. You can't wait to go read this. Splinter.com. While Stewart has about a quarter century proving he's the greatest of all time when it comes to finding comedy amidst seething indignation, hypocrisy signaling, and righteous lectures. And while we're able to vicariously vent some steam from that, it also recirculates the bleakness. If hope is going to seep into our broken machine, it's going to happen because of new messengers, messages, methods, and established leaders recognizing the arrival of a future where they aren't the main characters. Maybe Jon Stewart can show Chuck Schumer how. The whole article basically is about Mamdani. and about these other characters who are new to the Democrat Party, and they should be the generation to take over, and Jon Stewart needs to step away. And why does Jon Stewart need to step away? Because he's moderating. All right. You all agree now that Jon Stewart is moderating? Do you agree with me yet? Do you agree with me? Do you? Oh, you still don't? Okay, fine. Okay. Look, this Jason Tabris guy, look at the articles. Last night, these are all the articles written under Splinter, The Truth Hurts. September 24th, last night was the night that Jimmy Kimmel became president. Maybe this is who we are. It has a picture of the orange man with the guy from the island. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know how to read the room. Remember, Jimmy Fallon said he's not going to be in politics. South Park proves it's too big to fail in its mission to mock Trump. Late night isn't shutting up about Trump after Colbert cancellation. That's all Jason Tabris does. So Jason Tabris is telling you, I mean, this is a tell, right? If you're at the poker table, this is a tell. This is who they're sending in to say, you know what? It's time you rode out of here, big boy. And the reason they're doing that, part of it at least, is because of this. We are now on red94.net, which is a very strange website, and I'm about to show that to you. Remember when I told you we had uncovered some stuff? We got some stuff. Red 94, to the best of our understanding, is a website that originally was part of ESPN.com and was a website attached to the Houston Rockets. Yeah. Basically a fan website for the Houston Rockets and connected with ESPN.com. Now, I don't want to go full conspiracy theory on you, but you know ESPN, right? You've heard of it before. Now, this website, for some reason, and you all can go find it, red94.net, this website, for some reason, writes a lot of articles that seem to be trying in a definitely not organic way to persuade. I'm going to show you this. This is going to blow your mind, okay? The push for Jimmy Kimmel to go into the, for Jon Stewart to go into the sunset is that Jimmy Kimmel went as far and as hard to the left and against the orange man as he possibly could. And if only Jon Stewart would, he'd be fine. But since he won't, since he's scared of the Ellisons, he needs to get out of there. That's the message. That's what they're telling Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart, meanwhile, is saying, I got to keep my job. I'm going to lob myself over into the middle a little bit, give a little deference to the right, say, hey, I don't hate you guys. Bingo, bango, bongo, boom. I want one day work week and a lot of money. Red 94 says this by Jessica Morrison. Don't go anywhere. If you've hung with us this long, I promise, there's a payoff, and it's about to happen. Kimmel shows 3 times the rating spike in 2025, White Matters Today. Okay. We haven't found that Kimmel has a 3x rating spike, have we? No, we haven't. We've been reporting on that accurately. The article says, shock rippled as 6.26 million viewers tuned into Jimmy Kimmel's first show back after a September suspension. This matters now because the preliminary Nielsen numbers show a more than 3 times spike on September 23rd, reshaping who advertisers and networks will trust during controversy. Oh, I see. Okay. So that 3x with Nielsen, that shows advertisers and network owners, aka Disney and the other network drivers, this is what you should trust. Got it. Okay. First sentence, it tells us the purpose of the article. The concrete fact. That episode averaged 6.26 million traditional TV viewers. Okay, concrete fact back at you, Red 94. You can't average anything with a sample size of 1. Because to average anything, you have to be able to add something up and then divide it by the number of items that you're averaging. You have 1 episode. It can't average anything. I'll explain why this matters in just a second. It says, my take, networks will weigh audience upside against affiliate blowback more aggressively. Will late night hosts now calculate outrage as rating strategy? In other words, create some outrage. You'll get, 3 times the ratings? Now, you all know that this is actually not true, right? You all know, and there's Bloomberg, and here's it's got all this info for us. Oh boy, 300% plus on the typical episode. Now, you all know that was for like 15 minutes as people tuned in to see, was Jimmy Kimmel going to apologize? And they didn't. And his ratings started coming down. Then eventually he took 1 week off and he dropped down back to his normal slot and he's back underwater. You all know that it came out that it cost like $100 million for Jimmy Kimmel to put on a show. was via The Observer. Now, why, at the same time that they're trying to push Jon Stewart, simultaneously they're trying to push Jon Stewart to the left hard, and he refuses to do so? Why would that be if articles like this, previously linked to ESPN, Jessica Morrison says 3x, 3 times the ratings? Well, let's click on Jessica Morrison for a minute. Now, I'm not here to put anybody in the public square, in an unfair way. I don't want to throw undue signal onto Jessica Morrison. But just hang with me, folks. You're going to enjoy this. Remember, this is a sports website. I'll show you that in just a second, too. This is a sports website linked to ESPN, at least in the past. It was originally a Houston Rockets affiliate website. What's it being used for now? Well, let's count the number of articles that Jessica Morrison put out on the 2nd of November. You ready? 1, top 6 reality TV movies. 2, 7 streaming picks in November. 3, it scares the blank out of me. 4, Frankenstein on November 7th. 5, let's be clear. 6, who's in the band. 7, I don't really know if I should. 8, 5 reality TV announcements in 2025. 9, 5 reality scandals in 2025. 10, between 30-50, blah, 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 blah. Let's keep going, ladies and gentlemen. 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 articles on a Sunday. Many of them just slightly different. What about on the 1st? Maybe she was just really caffeinated on Sunday. On the Saturday, November 1st. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Click next. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Click next. 16. 16 articles on Saturday. Pretty impressive, huh? 30 articles in 2 days. And have you noticed anything as we've been scrolling through? Have you noticed that these titles tend to be very, very, very similar? I have a suspicion that this Red 94 website might be a place where narratives are born. I have a suspicion that if we go back now to Jimmy Kimmel and the 3 times rating spike that you all know likely isn't true. I mean, it's technically true for the first 15 minutes of his return show when people tuned in to see if he was going to apologize or not. So it's technically true, which is the best kind of true for narrative creation, right? But I just I've got a suspicion about this Red 94. And in fact, if you want to see me prove this out for you, okay? And I'm sure whoever owns it is a lovely person with only the best intentions whatsoever. If you go to red94.net, it wants to take you to news, right? And you can see it's got entertainment news. Well, what if we did, I don't know, what if we did something about sports? And if we go to red94.net/forums, you'll see that it was once upon a time a Houston Rockets thing. How do we know that? Well, because if I go back to the Google search here, you can see that red94.net forums, which is now red94.net news, right? But if you go to forums, Houston Rockets and NBA discussion. Huh. What an interesting thing. I don't know how all that works. Do you? All I know, ladies and gentlemen, is they're trying to build a narrative. That's all I know. It's all your humble correspondent pro knows. Well, minus this. Why would Jon Stewart still list to the left? Because the truth is that Greg Gutfeld is winning big time. Matt Moore on Last Night On has this. And, Matt, you really need to work more. You're not putting out 30 articles in a single weekend. Says Fox News Gutfeld has once again proven that traditional TV viewers aren't necessarily following the late night trends online. For October, Greg Gutfeld's satirical news show continued its dominance over the broadcast networks and competitors like Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy Fallon. Gutfeld's average of 2.825 million nightly viewers during October put the Fox News show comfortably ahead of ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live, The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and NBC's The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. And you can see the numbers. Gutfeld's nearly at 3 million nightly. Jimmy Kimmel is at 2.1, Colbert's at 2.1, and Jimmy Fallon is at 1.2. Gutfeld is beating these guys almost as much as if you combine Jimmy Fallon to either one of them. Gutfeld remains the undisputed ratings leader in late-night television. Impressive feat for a program that airs on a cable news network rather than one of the bigger broadcast channels. You all know the story. We don't have to go any beyond this. What you need to know is Jon Stewart is trying to keep his job because he knows what's really going on, and the left is trying to push him, and the narratives are trying to be built, and Jimmy Kimmel is trying to be presented as the model. The narrative machine has begun. And where these things come from, you got to dig a little deeper, eh? Well, we dug deeper today. They're trying to push upon and press upon the American public, but mostly the Hollywood types, that, hey, Jimmy Kimmel is your Northern Star. Jon Stewart knows that's not the case for him. How much farther does this go? How long can we go on with late night being devastated? Remember, Johnny Carson was pulling in 10 million plus easily in his heyday. And they're so excited that Kimmel's at 2 million. Yeah. Jon Stewart, what will he decide to do? Folks, don't be surprised if he's the next Bill Maher. Bill Maher 2.0. A sudden shift in mindset. A sudden, shall we say, tenderness, softness for his conservative relatives. That'll be the public persona. You got to win over those Trump voters by being kind to them. That's the new Jon. That's Jon 3.0. Jon 3.0. All right, folks, that is the video for today. Do you see how the sausage is made? That's why we did it for you today. We wanted you to see that. Folks, like, share, subscribe, click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. And until the next time, we have the honor, the joy, the privilege, and the pleasure of spending time with you. Keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
I just found out to get WDW Pro's information, where he gets his sources. I can't believe he uses Wilton.
What?
We got a job to do. It's easy to hack into WDW Pro's computer.
You're kidding me. That's awesome. You know any other stuff?
Yeah, just Jonas Campbell told me.
Sweet.
Said Pro underpaid him or something.
A few minutes later.
There. Oh, awesome. Whatever. All I gotta do is
Whoa.
hack into this thing. It's gonna be so easy.
Yeah, this isn't
All
a
right,
hack.
grab this picture over here.
Leave it to me.
Oh, no, Wilson.
Job done. What?
No, all we had to do was use the picture because he uses face unlock. Now we gotta go to thatparplace.com and sub to him and his team on YouTube.
Oh, well, I already did that because I'm smart.